Hey guys, it's Brian. So spring is finally sprung, and that means it's time to get out and enjoy the weather a little bit. Today, I'm actually in the process of converting my lawnmower back into a lawnmower. Currently, it's set up for snow plow duty. Luckily, all the snow's melted, it's gone. So I have to get the snow blade off and I have to put the bagger system back on the back. So I'll probably show you that in a little bit, but I wanted to talk a little bit about mainly my garage. So in 2024, I converted this garage from just a single car garage to a two-car garage. I used to have a giant ramp that was in here. You've probably seen that in some of my past videos, but that took up about a third of the space of my garage. So pretty much this bay was the only bay that I could park a car. In 2022, I bought a second car because this was my daily driver for years and years. I've had this thing since 2009 and got to a point where I knew that I wanted to keep it long term. And we have salty roads and it's rear wheel drive, so it kind of sucks in the snow. So what I decided to do ultimately was just get a second car. The other issue that I dealt with a lot when my daughter was young is this is a two-door. Trying to get a car seat in the back, trying to get my kid in the back is a pain in the butt with a two-door car. So I picked up my dad mobile. This is my 2008 Acura TL. Ironically, before we had a kid, we actually had the identical car. It was a 2007, my favorite color. It was black. It was gorgeous. I mean, I kept that car in such good condition. But then when we got pregnant, we decided, okay, we need to step up to an SUV. So reluctantly, I went ahead and sold that car. And then afterward, I'm thinking, damn, I so wish I kept that car. It was amazing. It was beautiful to drive. It was mainly driven by my wife, but it was one of my favorite cars too. So in 2022, I decided to go shopping and finally picked this one up. Not my ideal color, but it had been extremely well maintained. Secret behind this car, it doesn't look like it's got a lot of mileage, but it actually has about 263,000 miles on it. So it's high mileage, but it runs like a dream. Like I said, I mean, these cars, they're pretty bulletproof as long as you take care of them. And of course, I'm a car guy. I keep up on maintenance and all that. So I went ahead and picked this up for pretty cheap. And it's been an excellent car since. Only problem was when I had that ramp out in the garage, I still had to park it in the driveway. So in the wintertime, what I was doing is storing the Infiniti in a storage unit. Well, a storage unit costs about $200 a month to store a car. And I'm thinking, okay, $200 a month, that's about $600 to $800 every winter season. I'm like, that's not going to work. I don't want to keep doing that every single year. Not to mention, sometimes we have nice days. You know, maybe it's February or March and it's a beautiful day. I could actually access this thing, get it out, tear it up a little bit, and come back and park it. So that was my ultimate goal. I thought, okay, I have the two-car garage. We were talking about trying to build a new house for a couple years, and it just got to a point where it just wasn't feasible money-wise. I built this house in 2010, and in 2010, houses were affordable. For basically the same house, if I were to build it today, I would have a smaller lot and I would have triple the monthly payment that I currently do on this one. So I figured out, I was like, no, I'm not gonna be house poor just to get a house with a 3-car garage, which was my ultimate goal. But it essentially, like I said, would be this identical house or one very similar to it with a 3rd-car garage or triple my mortgage. No, that wasn't gonna happen. So I thought outside the box. The only problem with this garage is it's very small for a 2-car garage. It's 19 feet wide by 19 feet deep. So that doesn't give me a whole lot of room, especially as a paraplegic. You know, if I had 2 cars regularly parked in here, there wouldn't be a lot of room to get between the cars, to get the door all the way open. What I came up with was a lift that's actually in front of the door so I could tear out that ramp. And honestly, I want to go through that whole process of my lift in detail because it's a lot more information that I think will fit in one single garage video. So as you can see, the Infiniti is parked pretty much all the way against the wall all the way to the side and pretty far back. And that just gives me plenty of room between the cars on a daily basis. It also gives me room to come off the front of the ramp pretty easily. Well, there's a ramp in front of the lift. I'll have to show you. So my original plan when I did this two-car garage was, okay, I'm going to put the lawnmower in the back. I'm going to store it in the back of the house. My wife basically told me, hell no. She said that was a deal breaker. She said if that was going to be the case, then she was going to throw a fit. So I kind of had to get creative. And essentially what I came up with was that I can still fit it in front of this car. It is a pain in the butt since anytime I want to drive this thing, I have to move the mower. That is a downfall, but happy wife, happy life, right? So aside from sorting out the lift situation, getting rid of the ramp, putting in a lift, I really had to consider where the hell am I going to put all my stuff? Because in order to fit two cars in a 19 by 19 garage, I've got to figure out something a little bit more creative with storage. So here's what I came up with. I found this rack, which is typically just stationary. It's supposed to just hang from the ceiling. I found it on Facebook Marketplace, found it really cheap. And I was thinking, okay, I think I can modify that to be able to literally lower it all the way to the ground. So that's what I was going to show you today, since I've already got the mower housing that goes underneath that mower hanging up there. Pretty much everything that's on this shelf is stuff that I rarely use, like the ladder that used to take up a bunch of room. I have sawhorses and an air compressor and all that crap. I've also got the bagger situation that goes on the back of the mower hanging up there. So again, stuff that I rarely use, yet I can still access by myself by lowering this down. And I really wanted to show you today how that works. It's something that I pieced together just through a couple YouTube searches, kind of tweaked ideas that other people had, and this is what I came up with. While the ceiling rack is great for stuff that I don't need that much, I had to come up with a different idea for stuff that I use quite often. So we got to take a stroll through the house. You're getting a wheelchair lap right at this point. Here's what I came up with. Hey, Kobe. Okay. I got this giant container that I basically keep everything that I still want to access, but don't want to hang from the ceiling. So I just keep a padlock on it. And voila. So anything, I know this is a hot mess right now, but anything that I access quite a bit, I've got some tools in here. You know, of course, the big bulky stuff like oil change containers and what else do we have in there? We've got a shop vac, we've got a small little power washer, some gardening chairs and stuff. So that's pretty much where I put all that extra stuff. Now that I've got that patio over there, it really opened up the deck, so we didn't need all this room. So when able to make this lower to the ground, it's essentially just a 4-cable system that's run off of a single winch pulley, which is over on this side. This platform supports, it's rated for 250 pounds. This winch system will pull 440 pounds. So luckily it's stronger than it needs to be. As far as the cable system, I've got a pulley at each corner, and I've also got the standard mounts that the system came with. The upright pieces that used to be stationary, just solid metal that went to the ceiling, what I did was I cut those off with a cutoff wheel and simply attached the cable setup to the corners. And then I also added a little bit of redundancy for once it's up, I didn't want that weight always on that winch. So instead, what I do is I have these separate cables off to the side that attach to each corner, and essentially just I can lower the platform down on those stationary cables. It adds some redundancy. So I've basically got these cables that are supporting the weight and those cables that support the weight. And I think each one of these cables, I know they look pretty small, but each one of those can support about 200 pounds each. Figuring out how to get the system installed was kind of its own beast in itself, because clearly I can't get up to the ceiling to mount all of the braces to the existing studs that are in the ceiling. I knew sure as hell there's no way I'm getting a 40-pound winch all the way to the ceiling and bolted up by myself. So luckily, my older sister, Erin, who is also very, very handy, just like me, we work on projects all the time, and thank God she was willing to come over and help me get that put up there. So it was kind of hilarious because at the time, the lift that I have was on a rolling cart. So luckily, we were actually able to use that to roll it into place, and it lifts probably about 5 feet in the air. So we were able to raise her all the way to the ceiling. That way she didn't have to be going up and down a ladder. She had a platform that she could literally stand on. And what really helped is that I took a ton of pictures of this house when I had it built in 2010, when it was still in the framing stage. And those pictures have been a godsend. I mean, over the years, I've gone back to reference those so many times because it gave me an idea of, okay, where are the joists? And thank God I had those pictures, because I found out the joists for this house, since it has an angled roof, it's kind of like a teepee style roof. All of the boards from about here over run this way. All of the ones from there over run that way. So knowing that saved a ton of time, and we were able to figure out exactly where to put each one of the screws, just because we could see what it looked like before the drywall was there. So in order to hang the winch itself, we had to get really creative. It was the most ghetto thing you've ever seen. We took the lift, which was standing on wheelie carts, had that lifted up in the air. Then we had 2 sawhorses on top of the lift. On top of that, we had a board. On top of that, we had a bar stool. And we put the winch directly on top of the bar stool. Used the winch to raise it to the ceiling, pushed it against the wall, and that way my sister was able to drill into all the studs. Again, I was able to see what the framing looked like behind the drywall before we even tried to attempt this. So it's actually bolted into the header bar and then the studs that come down. So I've got 6 really long, really strong studs that are going into the upper framing of the wall and the wall studs itself. The winch itself, I mounted on a rail, and the rail is what's bolted to the wall. So here you can see where I've got the 4 cables connected to one single link. It's a triangular link that I believe is used for like rock climbing and stuff like that. But that thing is rated for a ton of weight. It has a screw on the side that locks it in place. So I knew that was going to be more than sufficient to pull the weight. And I wanted to make sure I had one single pulling point for this cable right here, because they all needed to be pulled at the same exact time. I've got the winch actually looped over. So that takes it from, if it was a single line pull, it would be 220 pounds. By doubling it up, it essentially doubles the capacity, which is what makes it pull 440 pounds. First thing I have to do is connect the winch to power. Currently, it's not plugged in because it doesn't need to be plugged in all year round. And I just want to make sure that it's not moving when it's not supposed to move. But before I can lower that down, I've got to get the carbs out of the way. So that's what I'm going to do first. Kind of sucks when I'm by myself because I don't have anybody to move the wheelchair, but usually my wife handles this just because I'm lazy and I don't feel like lugging it into the car. Only to move the car 5 feet. But we're going to make it work. At this point, I'm just going to get the lawnmower out of the way, get it over here where I can work on it, and get this old girl out of the way. I've modified the hell out of this lawnmower itself. It used to be that you had to sit on it for the engine to start. I completely bypassed all those switches. I cut off the foot brake because I really don't need a foot brake. It's been tweaked and changed so much over the years. This thing I bought in 2017. I got it 8 years ago. Bought it off Craigslist back when people actually used Craigslist. Paid $300 for it, and it's been the absolute best piece of equipment I swear to God that I've ever made or I've ever bought. What's so great about it is I can use it obviously for cutting the grass myself, but I can use it now since I got a bagger system. I use it for bagging the grass, and I also can bag leaves in the fall. And then in the wintertime, I put winter snowplow tires on the back. I put about 80 pounds of weight over the back axle. And this plow used to be made for, it was actually made for a bigger lawnmower than this. What I did was I cut about 3 inches off each side of this lift, or off of each side of the plow, so it would fit better on this kind of machine. And then I ghetto rigged the mount and just made it work. And it's been fantastic. I've used it every single winter. I'm the guy who plows all of these sidewalks around our entire neighborhood. So it just feels good to be able to help. Now that that's out of the way, we can go ahead and get this thing moved. I had the battery hooked up to what's called a battery tender, just because I don't drive it that much. So before I can move it, I got to unplug it. I'm not going to try to drag the chair out like I did with the other car. I think I'm just going to be smart and just load it up. I knew when I came up with the idea of having a two-car garage that I was really going to have to park the Infinity as close to this wall as I possibly could. So I was kind of going through my mind, like, how could I do that? Like, how can I make sure that I don't nail the wall as I'm coming in? So what I did was I got a parking mirror. This is the kind of mirror that you would see in a parking garage or something like that. But it is amazing. As I'm backing in, I can see exactly where the back of the car is, and then I can cut the wheel at the last second. I can get it so the passenger side mirror is almost touching the wall. So again, that just gives me plenty of space between the cars. It's not absolutely essential that I get it that close to the wall, but the closer the better. The other thing that just happened to really work out for me, I figured out that if I put my floor jack up in the corner like this, it essentially acts like a wheel stop for the car when I'm backing it up. So what happens is, as I'm backing it into this corner, my passenger side rear wheel will make contact with the front of this, and I'll know exactly where to stop. It keeps the bumper about that far away from the wall. This thing obviously doesn't get hurt because I'm not rolling over it. I'm just bumping into it. And this just seemed to be a huge tool that has really, really helped. Another thing I changed was just remaking the mounts for these little sensors. These sensors are obviously designed to keep the garage door from shutting if a kid runs through or whatnot. These used to stick out probably about 10 inches, a little bit farther than they are now. They used to be like right about where my fingertips are, and I wanted to get them as close to the door as I possibly could. That way, I knew that the garage door would still shut even if my back bumper was fairly close to the garage door. So right now I can have my back bumper probably 2 or 3 inches away from the door itself, and the door will still shut. Good news is, if I am not pulled in far enough, the door won't shut. So I don't have to worry about having a door come down on my back bumper. So when I park my Acura in the garage, I've only got probably a matter of maybe 6 inches in front, maybe a few in the back. So I was trying to figure out a way that I could park it in the same exact spot every time. I thought maybe I'd come up with some kind of laser guide kind of thing, but then I figured out there's a much easier way. So when I park the car in the garage, I'll just open the door and look down, and I figured out that if I have this Acura logo, pretty much the U lined up with the big crack that's in the floor, that is exactly where I need to park every single time. So that's my trick. Here's a quick look at the lift I came up with. Again, I want to do a different video, just really going into detail about this thing because it was quite a process just to design, but I just wanted to show you like the main reason I went with this was first of all cost. This is an industrial scissor lift. It's a lift that's typically used in a factory. And I wanted to use this as opposed to an actual wheelchair lift because I knew that I didn't have a lot of space between the back wall and where the front of my bumper is. I wasn't going to be able to fit a typical wheelchair lift. Not to mention, wheelchair lifts, I came to find out, were extremely expensive. So this was a better option for me. Is it perfectly to code or safe for, say, a shopping mall or something like that? Absolutely not, but it works for me. And that was really all I needed it to do. At this point, I'm just going to get the lift connected to power so we can get this thing down off the ceiling. I'm also going to get my kid's bike up here so I can lower it down. I took off the handlebars because it would have been too low for my car to fit underneath it. Moving a bike is the biggest pain in the ass for a wheelchair user because the freaking wheels turn constantly. So we're just going to make it work. At this point, I'm just going to raise the winch just so I can get this thing up a little bit higher and disconnect those mounting straps. So that way we can actually lower it down. Kind of a pain in the butt just because I can't reach those straps. So that's why we got a trusty grabber. Luckily, 3 of them just popped off by themselves, so that's good. One tricky bugger. Let's get you, biatch. Come on. Okay. So I kind of pull those off to the side just as the thing's lowering down. It's not getting hooked back on these things. Yep, I just lower it all the way to the ground at this point. At this point, I'm able to roll around the lift and just get all of my crap off of it that I need. Again, I need my bagger attachment for the mower. So we'll get all this stuff off. Good news is I can still get alongside of this thing. I was very adamant about designing this with enough room that I could get all the way, pretty much all the way around it, at least on 3 sides. At this point, all I need to get off of this thing is this bagger attachment, and underneath is the mower deck that goes underneath the mower that does the actual lawn cutting. So I'm gonna go get some help to get that off. I've done it before myself, and it's a big giant pain in the butt. So this is one of those situations where, you know what, it's better to just swallow your pride and ask for help. The final modification that I made to this garage, I had to address the floor. So in 2010, right when I had this house built, I had a friend of mine help apply an epoxy coating to the floor. It didn't go well. It didn't adhere well. So it ended up chipping up and looking like crap after a couple years. Once I had that ramp out, there was a giant clean spot where you could see the fresh epoxy from when I originally had it done. And then the rest of it was just sun faded. That's one thing I didn't realize is epoxy gets affected from UV rays. So it actually goes yellow over time. It's not just dirty. It's actually destroyed by the sun, the UV light. When I decided to have the floor recoated, this time I decided to do it right. Hired professionals to just get it done. They had extremely good reviews online, and they use a different product than epoxy. It's actually called polyurea, which is a lot stronger than epoxy coatings. So the process was that they came in with giant diamond grinders, grinded off all the old coating, but also roughed up the surface of the concrete. That way, the new coating that went down got really good adhesion. So it's got a lifetime warranty. I don't have to worry about it cracking, fading, chipping, or anything like that. And then they come back after they put down the main coat, they throw all these flakes on top of it, and then they put down what's called a polyaspartic clear coat. And again, the polyaspartic clear coat is just, it's, I think, 4 times stronger than epoxy. So I've dropped things on this, tools. I'm constantly slamming my wheelchair down on it without the wheels on it. Hasn't chipped, hasn't even made a mark. That's the great thing about the flaking that they put in this, is it just hides any dirt or imperfections pretty well, and it's easy to clean. So yeah, that's pretty much how I turned a standard 2-car garage into what I consider to be a handicap accessible garage. Is it perfect? Probably not. I mean, I would love to have a 3-car garage, or even just a wider, deeper garage like you find in older homes. But new homes, that's not an option. They take the majority of the space of your house and give you interior space. The garage is basically an afterthought. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya.